insane self-involved hypocrisy of artists and what they think they're allowed to do on occasion.
Is offering him the same clean slate you have me and allowing him to continue his great and ongoing contribution to our collective art without shame.
Robert Downey Jr. just teamed up with Mel Gibson to create movies that flip the bird to woke Hollywood. You heard that right. Iron Man and Mad Max are joining forces to make films without the PC police breathing down their necks. But why now? What pushed RDJ to take such a bold stand against the industry that made him a superstar? The answer might surprise you, and it's all in this video. Remember when Robert Downey Jr. was a total mess? Yeah, we're going there. The 90s weren't kind to RDJ. He was neck deep in drugs, getting arrested left and right in Hollywood. They turned their backs on him faster than you can say box office bomb. Everyone thought he was done for, finished, kaput. Studios wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. Why? Because he was uninsurable. That's Hollywood speak for, this guy's such a liability, we can't even get insurance to cover him on set.
You know, it's pendulemic. I was really fortunate in that I was pre-internet with much of my misbehavior.
And if you can't get insured, you can't work. Simple as that. It got bad, real bad. We're talking sleeping in alleys bad, missing court dates bad. RDJ was spiraling, and it seemed like there was no bottom to this pit he was falling into. He was arrested for possession, for driving under the influence, for trespassing into a neighbor's house, and passing out in their kid's bed. Yeah, it was that crazy. But here's the thing about hitting rock bottom. There's nowhere to go but up. RDJ finally realized he needed to change. It wasn't some big dramatic moment like in the movies. It was quieter, more personal. He said it was like having a gun in his mouth, tasting metal and realizing he didn't like the taste.
It's an interesting and necessary meditation on where is the pendulum, why is the pendulum right?
The spark that finally made him decide to get clean? It wasn't a near-death experience or a stern talking to from a judge. It was a burger. Yeah, you heard that right. A burger. RDJ tells the story of how he was driving around with a car full of drugs, and he stopped at Burger King. He bit into that burger, and it was so disgusting, so nasty that it made him rethink his whole life. He threw all the drugs into the ocean and decided right then and there to get clean. But getting clean was just the start. Hollywood has a long memory, and they weren't ready to forgive and forget. RDJ had burned a lot of bridges, and rebuilding them? That was gonna be tougher than kicking the drugs. So Hollywood's all about second chances, or so they say. But when it came to RDJ, seems like they left that memo in the shredder. Enter an unlikely hero, a man who'd been through the ringer himself and knew a thing or two about being Hollywood's punching bag. Mel Gibson. Yeah, that Mel Gibson. The guy who'd been canceled so many times, he could have started a stamp collection. But here's the kicker. Gibson didn't just talk the talk, he walked the walk. When no one else would touch RDJ with a 10-foot pole, Gibson stepped up and cast him in The Singing Detective back in 2003.
Is offering him the same clean slate you have me and allowing him to continue his great and ongoing contribution to our collective art without shame.
Now, you might be thinking, why would Gibson, of all people, help RDJ? Well, turns out these two had more in common than you'd think. Both had their fair share of controversies. Both knew what it was like to be Hollywood's persona non grata. But instead of bonding over their shared misery, they decided to lift each other up. And Gibson didn't just give RDJ a role, he put his money where his mouth was. When no insurance company would touch RDJ because of his past, Gibson covered the insurance bond out of his own pocket. That's right, he literally paid to give RDJ a second chance. RDJ didn't forget that act of kindness. Even when Gibson was facing his own PR nightmare, RDJ stood by him. At the American Cinema Awards in 2011, RDJ looked Hollywood straight in the eye and said, "Unless you are completely without sin, you picked the wrong fucking industry." Talk about dropping the mic. Gibson later called RDJ's speech a bold and generous and kind gesture.
I humbly ask that you join me unless you are completely without sin, in which case you picked the wrong industry.
During a time when he felt blacklisted, these two have saved each other from being non-existent and blacklisted in Hollywood. It's like they've formed their own little support group for Hollywood's black sheep. But here's the thing, Hollywood wasn't too thrilled about this bromance. Some critics called their collaboration desperate or out of touch. But RDJ and Gibson, they didn't give a damn. They kept supporting each other, kept working together, kept proving that talent and friendship can outlast any scandal.
He also financially and emotionally supported Robert Downey Jr. when he was dealing with his addiction problems.
Insane self-involved hypocrisy of artists and what they think they're allowed to do on occasion.
But don't think for a second that Hollywood was done trying to keep RDJ down. Oh no, they had plenty more tricks up their sleeve. And RDJ, he was just getting started. Remember when everyone thought casting RDJ as Iron Man was like giving the keys to a Ferrari to a drunk driver? Yeah, about that. Now let's talk about how the biggest gamble in superhero movie history played out. Marvel decided to roll the dice on Robert Downey Jr. for Iron Man. And let me tell you, people thought they were crazy. I mean, this guy was more famous for his mugshots than his movie roles at that point. Studios were freaking out, investors were having heart attacks, and fans, they were scratching their heads wondering if Marvel had lost its mind. But here's the thing, RDJ's messy past actually made him perfect for Tony Stark. Think about it, a genius playboy with a drinking problem and a massive ego. Sound familiar? Jon Favreau, the director, saw it right away. He knew RDJ's real-life struggles would give Tony Stark some serious depth. Kevin Feige, the big boss at Marvel, wasn't blind to the risks. He straight up said, "We were aware of the risks, but we also knew that Robert was the best choice for the role." That's some big talk, considering RDJ couldn't even get insured for movies just a few years earlier.
Doing a promotional round of interviews, and that's why we're talking about the movie, but we also would like to talk a little bit about you, and I don't know how comfortable you are.
And then Iron Man hit theaters. Boom. It was like a bomb went off in Hollywood. The movie made over $585 million worldwide. Suddenly, everyone who said RDJ was washed up was eating their words. This wasn't just a comeback, it was a full-on resurrection. But it wasn't just RDJ who won big. This movie kickstarted the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. You know, that little franchise that's been dominating movies for the past decade? Yeah, that one. All because they took a chance on a guy Hollywood had written off. And RDJ, he went from being uninsurable to being one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood. We're talking from $500,000 for the first Iron Man to a cool $10 million for the sequel. Talk about a pay rise. But here's the kicker. All this success didn't make RDJ forget who stood by him when he was down and out. Nah, he wasn't about to join the Hollywood Hypocrisy Club. He had other plans.
You know, I had a whole bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about what the hell was going on, because there was a lot of stuff I couldn't understand.
You thought Iron Man was rebellious. Wait till you see what RDJ's doing now. He's not just biting the hand that feeds him. He's taking a sledgehammer to the whole damn kitchen, and Hollywood's freaking out. RDJ's been running his mouth lately, and he's not pulling any punches. He's straight up calling out woke Hollywood, saying they've lost their way. According to him, these big studios are so worried about offending someone that they've forgotten how to tell a good story. It's like they're more concerned with ticking boxes than making movies people actually want to watch.
Lives destroyed, but you're also seeing lives that have been deeply troubled for years,
And you know what? A lot of folks in Hollywood aren't too happy about it. RDJ's basically calling them out on their BS, and they don't like it one bit. But here's the thing, RDJ doesn't care. He's got enough clout now that he can say what he wants, and he's using it to shake things up. But he's not just talking the talk. RDJ's teamed up with his old buddy Mel Gibson to start their own production company.
Of hope, and he urged me to find my faith. Didn't have to be his or anyone else's as long as it was rooted in forgiveness.
And get this, at the press conference announcing it, RDJ showed up wearing a cap that said "Make movies fun again." If that's not a middle finger to Hollywood, I don't know what is. So what's their big plan? Well, they're saying they want to make movies without all the woke agenda stuff. They're talking about creating a place where artists can take risks without worrying about getting canceled. Gibson even called it a place for bold, unfiltered storytelling. Sounds like they're ready to ruffle some feathers. And you know what? A lot of people are loving it. Sure, some industry insiders are calling RDJ out of touch, but there's a growing crowd that's cheering him on. They're tired of the same old formulaic movies, and they're ready for something different. RDJ is basically using all the power and influence he's built up over the years to challenge the way Hollywood does things. He's not just making movies anymore. He's trying to change the whole damn system. So what does this mean for Hollywood? Are we gonna see a shift back to more risky, edgy movies? Or is this just gonna create an even bigger divide in the industry? One thing's for sure, RDJ's not backing down anytime soon. So here's the deal, Robert Downey Jr. just proved you can tell the cancel mob to shove it if you've got the skills and the spine to back it up. His comeback story isn't just inspirational, it's a big middle finger to all those Hollywood types who pretend to care about second chances.
And I couldn't get hired, so he cast me in the lead of a movie that was actually developed for him.
Let's be real, they only care about one thing, cold hard cash. RDJ's teaming up with Mel Gibson shows that Hollywood's so-called values are about as real as a superhero movie. When the chips are down, it's all about who can make the money. And right now, RDJ's proving that standing up to woke BS can be profitable.
And
It's kind of a tragic healing process. You know?
it's a big upheaval. I mean, I've never seen Hollywood quite so shaken by anything.
But here's the million-dollar question, and is RDJ right to push back against this woke culture nonsense? Or is he just another out-of-touch celeb? What do you think? Throw your 2 cents in the comments, cause this debate ain't going away anytime soon.